giant machine to up somebody's brain. And if that means, get them excited or make them feel romantic or make them afraid like Dawn of the Dead or make them laugh, like The Specials or whatever, it's there to create some sort of effect with an audience.
Hey, good evening, and welcome to another edition of Film Nut. We are very excited to have you here tonight. For those of you who don't know, that was James Gunn we were just listening to in an interview with Lloyd Kaufman. That was from part of a DVD collection of Make Your Own Damn Movie, which was put out by Troma and Lloyd. We're going to get to James in just a few minutes. I know we have some new watchers watching tonight because James has such a huge following. So I want to take a moment to explain real briefly what this show is about. It's Film Nut. We like to break down filmmaking. We like to talk to writers, directors, actors, but also cinematographers, special effects people, and so forth to really get into the mechanics of filmmaking and try to inspire and educate potential filmmakers out there who might be watching. So having said that, I also want to mention our usual watchers over at Stickam, Ustream, and a special thanks to blogtv.com, our sponsor, and a special shout tonight to those who refer to themselves as J-Gassers, I believe. J-Gas, yeah. Now, Brian, do you know what J-Gas stands for?
It is the James Gunn Appreciation Society, of course.
That is, who doesn't know that, right? It's amazing, because a lot of celebrities, a lot of people who are famous, they have like fan clubs. My man James has a whole society, I mean that's pretty big, I wonder what the hierarchy structure that is. But no, we know you guys have been waiting for this interview. We appreciate your support and you promoting the interview, so that's really cool. I know something else you were excited about this week, Brian.
Yes.
Heroes, it premiered. Did you catch it?
Yeah, I catch the premiere of Heroes, and I think as a big Heroes fan and fellow Heroes fans would agree that they just didn't do enough. They could have gotten all that exposition out in the first, I could have done it in about 30 seconds, but maybe even the first 15 minutes, and there was some action at the end, but, I wanted more. I think they could have impressed more on the season premiere and then waited for more exposition, maybe episodes 2, 3, and 4.
Very good critique. I agree. I mean, I love the show, but I think one of the things it does move slow. But enough about Heroes. I want to get to my guest tonight because I'm very excited. We got a lot of material to cover with him. James has been making films since the early age of 12, zombifying and killing off his brothers until he made his way to where he is now. He's a writer, he's a director, he's an actor, he's a true triple threat with an incredible range from Scooby Doo to Dawn of the Dead and all kinds of other projects in between. Ladies and gentlemen, please say hello to Mr. James Gunn.
Hey, how's it going?
I want to sincerely thank you for coming on tonight. We're an upstart network, an upstart show, and we're growing and we're making great strides. But, people like you coming on really helps feed the indie world, and we appreciate you coming on.
Hey, it's great. I'm on a thing my friend taught me called a yes binge. Have you ever heard of a yes binge?
I have not.
That's where you say yes to everything, anything that you aren't immediately going to say no to.
Right.
Say yes to. And you try it out for about 6 months, and you end up doing a lot of stuff. So I've had a fun life over the past few months because I say yes to everything that I might not want to say no to.
Oh,
and that's and Peter just happened to write me right 2 days after I started my yes binge.
Timing's everything.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, I got a couple of scripts I'm going to give you after this. No, I'm kidding.
No.
the binge just broke. Right
it's got to be. You have to have some inkling of wanting to do it.
Exactly.
Sorry.
That's okay. So now in that opening,
starting really well. You love me.
No, I do. No.
Okay.
So with that Lloyd Kaufman clip that we showed, that was a great interview you did with him. And of course, as many of your fans know, you did get your start with Troma, right?
Yeah, I absolutely did.
So what influence did working with Troma and Lloyd have on you as an artist?
Besides the repeated anal rapes by Lloyd, no, honestly, Troma was a great experience for me because a lot of people go to film school and you learn certain aspects of filmmaking, but I went to Troma and I was able to learn how to write a screenplay, how to do pre-production, how to actually produce a film, direct scenes, how to then test the film with test audiences and actually see my screenplay up there for real. That teaches you an awful lot about writing, and then actually putting it into theaters and marketing it and all of that. I got to experience every aspect of filmmaking from beginning to end, and people made fun of me because at the time I was getting paid not that much, and
right.
I had a decent education, but But the truth is, I didn't pay $80,000 to go to film school, and I worked for Troma instead for a pittance, but I learned an awful lot, and it was a great education.
Well, and that's a great point, because a lot of, there are some artists that are willing to pay their dues, work hard, do whatever it takes, and others that kind of maybe have a little bit of an attitude and don't want to work for less than they're worth at the beginning, when in this business the supply so far exceeds the demand that you have to, I think.
You have to create a situation for yourself where you start doing something, and then, and then just flow with that. I mean, if you're an actor, do showcases, go do small play. I mean, I know so many actors in LA who audition for stuff that's like, they audition maybe for commercials and big movies and TV shows, but they don't go out there and act. They don't go do small theater. They don't do short films. They don't do all these other things. And that's really how you create opportunity, is by going out and doing stuff and creating friendships and getting to know people, because you never know what, when you do that short film, that maybe the director never does anything ever again, but the guy who's the PA on that film ends up, becoming your friend and directing a great movie in a couple of years.
Yeah, great. So from there, you went on to New York. Is that from Troma?
Well, I was in New York.
Oh, you were in New York.
Yeah. Troma was in New York. I was actually going to school at Columbia University, and I was still in school when I got hired by Troma to write Romeo and Juliet for $150. Which I did. And
wow, you got $150 out of Lloyd?
I got $150, and I actually got paid. As far as Troma standards go, I got paid a weekly fee after that when I started producing the movie. Okay. And I was actually very tough with Lloyd, and he resented the fact that I was getting paid so much and grumbled about it. It wasn't that much. It was enough to buy a gallon of milk in New York, but he grumbled about it constantly. He yelled at me all the time.
So, you were also talking about in your interview with him that you did a lot of writing, though, in New York for screenplays that were not necessarily made, but just to kind of write and develop your craft?
Yeah. I mean, at the time, I didn't think I was writing them to develop my craft. That's only in hindsight. I was writing them to get made. While I would work at Troma, and I'd work 60, 70 hours a week. I mean, this is after the movie was shot. But I was still doing all the production for Troma at that time. And I would go home and I would write every night for another 3 or 4 hours, and I'd write on the weekends, and I'd basically my whole life was work and writing at that time. And I wrote a couple of screenplays. I wrote a couple of full screenplays that I still think have some value today that I've never done anything with. And then, I maybe wrote a draft of a couple of other screenplays. I didn't go any further than that.
But then you came up to the specials.
Then I wrote the specials, and I wrote that movie very quickly, and for me that was a big turn, because it was a comedy, and that was the first time I wrote within a genre, and the specials I wrote it, like I said, in a week and a half, and it got noticed very quickly. I just started giving it out to friends. And eventually a bunch of powerful people got a hold of it. Joss Whedon got a hold of it, and Jay Roach got a hold of it, and my manager, Peter Safran, got a hold of it, and all of a sudden I was taking meetings in Los Angeles and getting
So that actually got you the manager, right? When
Yes.
you say your manager got a hold of it, that's what led him to be your manager by somehow getting this. Now, brings me to another interesting point, because a lot of newer writers, they get scared about just indiscriminately kind of passing their script around, like it sounds like you did. Were you concerned at all about it being stolen, or?
I think my sense of humor is strange, and what was good about the specials wasn't the idea. It was the way, this is what I thought. It was the way that I wrote it. Right. So I was never afraid of that. No, I registered it with the Writers Guild immediately, of course. So there was this, the script was registered. But I was never afraid of that, and I never have been afraid of that. There's a lot of people out there who are afraid of getting their stuff stolen, but the truth is, if you're a good writer, you keep plugging away. I don't think it happens as often as people think it does. There's been quite a few times when I've had ideas that all of a sudden then somebody else has that same idea, and it's a bummer when that happens. That happened with the Adam Sandler movie Click. I went out and I pitched a movie called Rewind, which was about a guy who had a tape recorder, and his whole life was on this cassette player, and he could fast forward and rewind his life, and he could go back in time and put money in stocks in Microsoft, and then fast forward really, really quickly and go take that money out. He was extremely rich, and it was just an idea. It was an outline. I went and pitched it to one place. They were interested, and the next day Click was sold. And it wasn't it was just bad timing on my part.
Well, why don't you give the audience a quick log line of what The Specials was about, and then we'll take a look at a clip from it.
Sure. The Specials is about a group of superheroes on their day off. It's about the interpersonal relationship between the world's seventh best group of superheroes.
All right, we'll take a look at a clip we got for it, and then we'll get to some instant messages from the viewers.
They're putting their hearts and souls into this. It's going to
Yeah, superheroes, they don't win Oscars. They get action figures.
That's right. That's they think it's the culmination of their entire careers having these action figures released, and instead it's embarrassing.
Right.
And it leads to their massive breakup and all sorts of disaster. An interesting trivia note is that guy who plays the toy executive is a guy by the name of Matt Champagne, who's a comedian. And when we sold the Specials, we did staged readings of the script, which had a lot of the people who actually ended up being in the movie, like Judy Greer and Rob Lowe, and Jamie Kennedy. But Matt played the Strobe in the staged readings, and so he helped us to get the movie sold.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to some of those IMs now. Actually, before that, like Brian promised, we're going to read some of the questions from the people before the show that emailed them in. So Tanya wants to know, how important are awards to you? Not in an egotistical way, but in terms of you being appreciated and recognized, like being honored by AFI, a SAG award, or what kind of recognition would be important to you as an artist?
I don't ever fantasize about I fantasize about awards only while I'm watching awards shows. So once a year, when the Academy Awards come up, I'd be, wow, that'd be awesome if I was up there excited, and I make up a little speech in my head that's better than the other speeches on that day. But I don't really care. I don't think about it. We got, for SLiTHER, we got a couple of fun awards. We got an award from the, Fangoria Chainsaw Awards. I got a Saturn Award for the Filmmaker Showcase, and it was awesome. I love getting them, but I never, ever think about getting awards while I'm making a movie. I think either of the audience and how they're going to react to the film and having it work in a certain way with them and being appreciated in that way. And then sometimes I think about making money, and I would love to have a movie that I like having movies that make a lot of money, and that's interesting too. But I never think about the awards. I'm just too much of a immigrant Irish Catholic that I think about more basic needs.
Well, and I tell you, I think comedy is an underappreciated genre to begin with. I think the kind of comedy that you do, like the mockumentary and all that other kind, is even less appreciated. So,
yeah,
I would like to see like award shows where like your work and like Trey Parker and those guys and do that kind of work, because you're just brilliant.
Well, thanks.
Joseph had a question, or more of a statement that I guess leads to a question. Joseph's statement is, James, let me count the ways in which you kick ass. You're a great screenwriter, great director, great actor, great musician, great novelist. great, I'm going to change the word here, in bed. I don't know how he knows that.
I fucked him. That's how.
There you go. You did work for Lloyd, didn't you? So is there something that you'd love to conquer that you have yet to do? In other words, what's the next thing you'd love to be great at?
I just all I think about is whatever project I'm working on, and I'm working on this new screenplay that I'm into right now, and that's my main thrust. And I have a couple of other side projects. I'm working on
Does that happen to be Pets?
Pets, yeah. I'm working on a movie called Pets, which just got picked up by Fox for me to write and direct with Ben Stiller and Red Hour producing.
A great combination. Congratulations.
Thanks. And so I'm very excited about that. It's a big budget pop movie, and it's a lot of fun, but it's still science fiction, and it still has all of that same humor from the specials and those other types of things that I'm known for. So I'm just really concentrating on that. I've got couple of things I'm working on, but I really just think about what's in the projects in front of me, and I don't think so much about, I want to be good at this specific thing.
Okay. Now, Dawn of the Dead, that was an adaptation, right? And I heard you in your interview with Lloyd talk about how you stuck with the premise, I think, but the beat-by-beat moments you kind of went your own way with. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
And was that your choice? Did you have to get approval from Anyone? Or?
No. When Dawn of the Dead started very small, Eric Newman is the guy who produced Dawn of the Dead. He produced SLiTHER. And he's been a friend of mine for a long time, and he called me up and he said, I think I can get the rights to Dawn of the Dead. If I can, would you like to write it? And I had been offered a lot of remakes that just never appealed to me, but for some reason I could see in my head the way Dawn of the Dead could be done, and how it could work. And the way it was just taking that premise of people trapped in a mall during a zombie apocalypse and sort of running with that, and telling a different story. And then that way, people could watch Romero's film, and it's a completely different movie, and people could watch our movie, and it's a completely different movie. So that's what I did, and that's when all this reimagining stuff started coming from. But yeah.
Cool. Now, as your career is progressing, then you're working more with studios and other entities, whatever. People have says, cooks in the kitchen. What would you say is the difference between writing indie versus studio for you?
I don't really think there's a difference between. I think it just matters with the people involved.
Right.
I mean, quite honestly, I love Lloyd. He's still one of my best friends. We just hung out last week. We go out to dinner once or twice a month.
Right.
But he can be a tyrant, and he definitely knows what he wants, and so he's bossier, say, than a lot of studio heads I've worked with, and that's. So, and he's the most independent film company I've ever worked with. Whereas somebody like Gold Circle, who I did SLiTHER with, and Universal, who was involved from the very beginning, I got free reign to do whatever I wanted with that film. They had very little, they would give me notes, and then if it came down to an argument, they let me do what I wanted. And every once in a while, there'd be little things they'd argue about a little bit more, but I had more freedom on that movie than anything else. Mindfire, they did the specials. We had a lot of freedom on that film. The Scooby Doo movie is totally different. Very little freedom. I mean, that was a lot of cooks that had to be pleased, and that was difficult.
I believe you were talking in the Make Your Own Damn about having to make the actors happy, the director, the producer.
Yeah.
Is there a danger in that for writers watching, and as a writer, trying to make so many different entities happy?
Well, I learned a big thing on Scooby Doo, on the first film, because I was getting very fed up with dealing with this giant studio hierarchy and that very thing, making the director happy, the producers happy, the actors happy, the studio happy, and everybody had a say, and it became crushing.
How do you write
for
like
me?
Yeah.
And so after a while, I just said, I don't give a shit. I just want to finish this thing. We had to rewrite the whole ending halfway through shooting, and so I just wrote pages quickly, didn't really put much effort into them, and just said, I'm just going to make them happy. I don't care. It's going to be, whatever. And for me, that was a failure. That was a personal failure, because the truth is that on a movie like that, you do actually have to work with all those people, and you really do have to make all of those people happy. But one of those people is yourself, and one of those people was me. And because I kind of let go of my own feelings, it ended up being something I was less than happy with. And since that time, I've been a little bit stronger in my opinions, I think, and a little bit, but also trying to find compromises with everybody so that I can be happy and those other people can be happy. And that's what being a big studio screenwriter, that's the job of a studio screenwriter.
Great.
It's a lot different than what people think it is.
Well, I'm going to ask you a couple more IMs, and then we'll get to another clip from some more of your work. Let's see. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Please forgive me if I'm not. Emain, he wants to know, what is the difference between writing a script or a book, and what would you suggest to anyone writing in any form? Because you've written, how many books have you written? I know you helped.
I've written 2 books. I wrote
one with Lloyd, right?
I wrote one with Lloyd, and then I wrote a novel called The Toy Collector.
Okay.
And those are probably the 2 books I'll write during my lifetime.
Right.
The ratio of work to the benefit I get from a book is a lot smaller than a movie. I'd say there's a lot of work that goes into writing a novel. I'd say, especially a novel, I say there's a lot more inspiration that I become dependent on while I'm writing a novel, whereas there's something a little bit more right brain about writing a screenplay where you're putting the pieces of the puzzle together and making sure it's going to work okay.
Right.
And there's inspiration there as well. Right. But I'd say that screenplay is much easier. It takes a lot less time to write, and it's more of a right brain activity. That'd be the biggest difference.
And any tips for any new writer maybe starting out? Do you have any? Let's talk about your writing routine. Do you write a specific time of day, morning, night? Rituals in terms of writing? Do you use the cue cards or?
No, I don't do any of that stuff. But I do.
I'm really getting you off this yes thing, aren't I?
I write 5 pages a day.
Okay.
So like right now I'm writing this new screenplay, and I have a basic outline of the 3 acts and what the central characters, the 2 central characters, 3 central characters actually are learning from the experience of the film, and I know what those emotional beats are, and then I'm writing from that very, very basic outline 5 pages a day. Okay. So it doesn't matter if it takes me 2 hours to write 5 pages, or if it takes me 15 hours to write 5 pages. I write 5 pages a day. Now I'm not. I don't know. I'm not perfect. This Sunday I goofed off and I wrote 1 page. So then on the next day I wrote 7 pages. So or whatever, 9 pages.
Right.
So I do that occasionally, but that's basically I try to write a certain amount of pages every day.
Now, is the point just to get it out on the page? Do you care how good it is? Are you editing as you go, or are you just getting it out on the page to get your 5 pages done?
No, I have to think. I mean, at this stage, I have to think a little bit about does it make sense in the context of what's occurring, and again, it's a rule, but it's not a rule that I'm not. It's not a. I'm not a fascist to myself.
Sure.
There's freedom within that.
Because I know Stephen Blackheart. I can call him and check on him.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look at a clip from Dawn of the Dead. It's a making of kind of visual effects clip because, like I said, we try to be a little bit educational here, and we're going to roll that now and talk some more, take some more of your IMs when we come back.
Steve gets a jetpack, and he flies away out of the scene. Yeah, he's the Boba Fett of zombies, exactly.
3, 2, 1.
That's freaky, huh?
The other challenge was for on-camera exit wounds. The traditional is the squib hit, which is a detonated device on the back of the head with a blood pack. The result is a little cap pops and the plug flies out of the head. Burt Reynolds, he's played by one of the stuntmen, and we put the squib hit on the back of his head. But you can only get so big with those because you can't put that large of a hit next to the person's head. So we needed to come up with a way to basically pull more of the head off with the hit. And we devised this ratchet system. This is one of the plates that we designed so that the ratchet system could be used. And a cable would be woven through there and attached to the brain. And the brain is a rigid plate that on action gets pulled by an air ratchet, and when it's pulled off, it activates those flaps. And there's all kinds of stringy stuff that attaches this to this, blood bags and slime and threads and yarn and all kinds of stuff. And the effect is horrifying.
It's an air ratchet driven by a dive bottle. Cable goes to the fixture on the head, and push of a button yanks it out at millisecond speeds.
We get our pick point nice and high, so we got a good trajectory and look.
Great. No, it is. It helps, for someone who's a wuss when it comes to horror movies. It's not so scary anymore,
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. Once you get used to the effects, being around them. But it's actually working with the effects guys is scarier than getting your head blown off sometimes.
Yeah. I want to talk about SLiTHER now, or move on to that, because you were involved in that as a director in addition to writing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start by getting to those IMs, because we have some that are starting to back up, so I want to acknowledge them. Swadel, is that it? Swaderl? I don't know.
Swader.
Swader, okay. Oh, Swader 11, there you go. In SLiTHER, what was the inspiration behind the scene in which Brenda grows larger and larger and eventually blows up, giving birth to all of the slugs?
What was the inspiration of that scene? I don't know. I mean, actually, a lot of that stuff was inspired. I read a graphic novel called Uzumaki by a guy named Junji Ito, Japanese
Judge
guy.
Ito?
Junji Ito.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not Judge Ito. Junji.
Oh, Junji.
And Junji Ito wrote this graphic novel called Uzumaki. Uzumaki means the spiral, and it's a wonderful, like, comedic but both very creepy novel about this spiral that invades this small town, and I loved the tone of it. And I talk a lot about how SLiTHER is a love poem to the movies from the 80s that I loved, the horror comedies of the 80s. But the truth is that what really started out was reading this graphic novel, because it was so creepy and yet funny and strange and fucked up that it was really what I wanted to capture, that same sort of feeling. And there was a couple of things I thought of first when the idea was coming to my mind. One is the scene in which the worm's going into Kylie's mouth, and the other one was when the Brenda blob explodes. So I don't know what specifically. I seem to have a freaked out pregnancy thing in all of my movies, and I don't know why that is, but it happens in Romeo and Juliet. The woman's stomach bursts open, and she has rats and popcorn and all this stuff come out. And Dawn of the Dead, you have the little baby that's all messed up. I mean, even in Scooby Doo 2, there's this womb sequence, and it's something that I seem to be sort of obsessed with. So I don't know where it came from.
Well, Swader, you may already know this if you have the DVD, but if you don't, and for others, speaking of visual effects, like we just saw with Dawn of the Dead, there's a great visual effects extra on SLiTHER where they show that particular scene and, 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, 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 how that scene came together. That was really cool. So Blue wants to know, okay, we'll ask that one. What do you think of Shaun of the Dead, and have you met Simon Pegg?
I've met Simon Pegg, and I'm friends with Edgar Wright, the writer-director of the film, along with Simon Writer. I love Shaun of the Dead. I love Shaun of the Dead. I love Hot Fuzz, and I think that there's, 3 or 4 guys out there who are extremely talented, and Edgar Wright is one of them. So I think it's a great film.
Now, Brian moved the board a little bit, but someone had a question on there. Will there be a SLiTHER 2?
No.
Fair enough. Now, back to some.
Possible. There's a little, as Nathan Fillion says, there's a little rule that usually movies have to make, at least a small, amount of money to have, warrant a sequel.
Right.
And SLiTHER didn't make much money, so it's unlikely.
Now, how is it doing in DVD? Because we know
it's actually done pretty well in DVD. It's done pretty well in DVD. So, and actually, it's done well with. The ratings on cable and everything else. It's been showing a lot on HBO.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling you before we came on that, I'm not a huge horror person guy. Yeah. And when SLiTHER was being first marketed and I saw the commercials for it, looked like a really scary, kind of horror movie. But when I watched it, in preparation for the show, it just cracked me up. And I think the comedic elements were kind of left out of the...
I mean, I don't know. Some people think that. Some people think there was too much comedic elements in the trailer. I mean, I actually think that if Universal were to do it all over again, they would make it look even more like a straight horror film. I think that the truth is it's a hard film to sell. So there's a horror, it's a comedy, but it's also got the gross out element. The comedy is not comedy like Scary Movie. It's black comedy, independent film comedy. So it's its own type of thing. It's a different type of film, and it's hard to sell. And I don't know if I really made it for a mass audience. I made it for the people who like it, and that feels great that they do.
Yeah, no, the people that like it definitely love it,
Yeah.
Count me among them. Now, with writing and directing, how did this film meet your expectations coming from more of the writing background into your feature directorial debut?
Well, the thing is, I've been very lucky my whole career because I've had a lot of on-set experience. I mean, from directing scenes in Romeo and Juliet, being around as an actor throughout all the specials, being on set for the Scooby Doo films the whole time, and it's just I've been around sets a lot, so it was a very comfortable place for me to be. And frankly, I was afraid it was going to be more difficult than it was, and at times it's very stressful making a film. But I'd say overall the process was a little bit easier than I expected it to be. I always expect things to be worse than they are in life. It's part of my doom and gloom type of thinking. I'm always expecting, there to be some sort of dirty bomb in my neighborhood, but I remember when I was like in kindergarten, I was best friends with my brother Patrick, who was a year younger than me, and I went into his room, and I was about to start first grade, and I said, Patrick, I can't play with you anymore. Because I'm about to go to first grade, and in first grade what you do is you go to school and then you do homework all night long, and that's what I thought the rest of my life was going to be, was this hell. And so I still have that very negative perception about what life is going to bring, and I think that I expected making a movie to be a little bit more difficult than it was.
Was there a best, worst moment on set of making SLiTHER?
Well, the best moment was definitely when Kylie got vomited on. That was the best because it was just a moment of triumph. And when there's a scene in the movie where Kylie Strootmeyer is running down the hallway getting chased by the slugs, and her mother pops out of a side door and vomits blood all over her face. And originally that scene in the movie had a lot more effects in it, and at the very last minute we're like, we can't afford all these effects. I had to cut the slugs. I'm always looking for ways to save money. So I'm like, well, wait a second. If we have the mom vomit on her face, that's going to get a bigger freak out moment from the audience than than $70,000 worth of effect shots. So let's just have her vomit on her face. So we get there on the day. We have Kylie running down the hall. The mom comes running out. She grabs her daughter, and this little dribble comes out of her mouth, and it's like not at all what I wanted. I'm bummed out, and it ruined her shirt. We only had 3, and then the costume guy says we only have 3 of these shirts, so we can only do this take 3 times. Then we have to move on. I'm like, okay, well, let's try it again. Really, Iris was the name of the actress. Really spit it all over Tanya's face. And Tanya's going, okay. But she does it again. She, runs out. She grabs Tanya. It drools out even worse than before. It was terrible. So I'm like, okay,
one shirt left.
We need to one shirt left. We need to get it right this time. We need to practice. So Iris and Tanya and I walked outside, and Iris came and she kept trying to do it over and over again, and she just couldn't get it right. And then finally she said, well, wait a second, what if I coughed? And I said, well, try it. And she coughed, and it comes spurting out. And I'm like, perfect. We go back up. The scene happens. Iris vomits directly all over Kylie's face, and that was the happiest moment of my life.
That was the martini shot.
That was the happiest moment of my life, besides a few masturbation sessions.
There you go.
That was number one.
That was number one. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at a clip of SLiTHER, because we've talked a bit about it now, and we'll take some more IMs when we come back. Now that scene was scary and it turned me on all at the same time.
I've got an erection.
Yeah.
That scene was Kylie Strootmeyer is the character's name. Tanya Sonier is the actress's name, and she's when the slugs go into people's brains, they become one with sort of the central alien, and she's linking mind linking with a minute for with Michael Rooker's character, the main alien, and experiencing what that alien experience on another planet.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. I got that right away, and I was like, wow, that's a really cool hook.
Cool,
you know?
Cool. Yeah, it was, and it was difficult to shoot. It was, there's a lot of gagging.
Right,
going on,
but no swallowing. So that was that was the important thing.
But it was Tanya did a great job in the movie. It was a lot. That scene's a lot of fun, and I actually have to give props to Image Engine, who is the company that did the slug, that the CGI work of the slug on the ground going up the side of the tub.
Yeah,
because they did for a very limited budget. SLiTHER was a $15 million movie.
Yeah.
They did fantastic work.
Yeah, no.
And when I first saw those things, I was so happy that we hired those guys to do them because they just did great work.
Yeah. That scene, the one immediately after it, is also in the DVD extras where they show visual effects step by step.
Yeah, with the what's that?
Where she's running out onto the roof.
Oh yeah, that was a tough. That was our one complex crane shot in the whole film.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I should have showed that. Brian would have been very happy.
Yeah.
Let's see. I got the last question from someone who emailed prior to the show, and his screen name, whatever, was he just used the J-Gas thing, so it's J-Gas.
Wow.
And his statement / question is, how awesome is J-Gas? Go ahead. You can be honest.
J-Gas, the James Gunn Appreciation Society, is completely awesome. We're a society of appreciators. We appreciate each other, and I like that. I think that's better than the James Gunn fan site because it's a give and take thing. I appreciate them. They appreciate me. We appreciate each other individually. We're all about appreciation at the James Gunn Appreciation Society.
Fair enough.
Which is jgas.org, actually.
Oh, good. Yeah, give him a little promo.
Yeah.
Dan wants to introduce himself and offer his services, that he's available to work on pets.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You're hired.
You're hired. And let's see, Josh wants to know, what is the Belko experiment all about? That's another project you use on IMDb, I think.
Yeah, right? The Belko experiment is a project that's at Rogue, Universal, and Gold Circle, who I did SLiTHER with. Same producers as SLiTHER, Paul Brooks and Eric Newman. And the Belko experiment is about a group of American expatriates who work in a building in Sao Paulo, Brazil. At the beginning of the day, they're going about their boring lives, and about 11 o'clock in the morning, walls close up around this building, and a voice comes over the loudspeaker and says, at the end of 8 hours, only a very few of you will be alive, and the only way you can make it through the day is to do exactly what I tell you to do. And then they're set through a series of moral experiments to basically kill each other.
That sounds really good. Now, is that going to have the gun humor in it, or?
It's not very fucking funny
at
all.
No, at all.
No, it's really not. It's in fact.
It sounds like a great premise.
In some ways, for me, it was an experiment of doing something that didn't have the humor in it, and it's pretty dark actually, and it's very gritty and very, very very real, very naturalistic, and so that's going. I'm doing that. That script's totally finished actually, so it's just a matter of what I'm going to do next.
Okay, well, I'm very much looking forward to that and pets. Let's see, Vis Vival Law. How's that, Brian? Is that close enough? Question for James Gunn. Just to let you know, pretty much all the questions are for James Gunn. No one asked me anything. But I wouldn't ask me questions if I was sitting here right now. Is it true that crows have replaced hippos as your favorite animals?
No, my favorite animal is still the platypus.
The platypus.
The platypus is the most kick-ass animal that God or the godless evolution has ever invented. Because a platypus is a mammal who can lay eggs, who's got a poisonous spike that's awesome on the back of his webbed foot. Who's got he's got like a sonar, like bats that he can use underwater. He's got a duckbill and fur, and I don't know if any animal will ever be as cool as that. But I also like crows because they're very smart, and I actually have video of a crow on, I think, both my website and on my MySpace page, of a crow bending. He's trying to get some food out of a little tube, and he uses he's got the steel thing he's trying to use to get it out, because crows use tools, and he actually takes the steel thing out and bends it and pulls out the food, and it's pretty goddamn smart. So, so I do like crows.
So any chance?
I like hippos too, but I'm afraid of hippos because the thing people don't know about hippos, or some people don't know, many of my fans know, is that hippos kill more people every year than crocodiles and sharks combined.
Wow.
Absolutely true. And
Brian, you're a smart guy. Did you know that?
No, it's news to me.
Totally true.
Yeah.
And they'll see like a tribe of sleeping pygmies, and they're hateful, evil animals, and they'll just go smash the fuck out of all of them right there. And that makes them both very awesome, but unless you're a pygmy.
Unless you're a pygmy. Any chance there'll ever be a Platypus Man movie? You know, the Batman, Platypus Man?
No, I think platypus is better in the pure form as an actual platypus as opposed to some sort of human hybrid stealing the platypus's awesomeness.
Cool. Well, we talked a little bit about the visual effects of SLiTHER. Why don't we take a look at some of it, and if you like it, you're going to have to buy or rent the DVD to see the rest.
Okay.
So let's roll those.
Let's watch this. I don't see anything.
Neither do I. They told me it was cute.
Yeah.
Cool. And there's so much more than what we showed. About 5 or 6 minutes total, I think, but it was really good. You know, the scene in the bathtub that we didn't get to, great scenes. So here is an actual viewer question, not from Brian, because we talked about this beforehand. Beelzebub wants to know, why was there no gratuitous nudity in SLiTHER?
Well, I get asked that a lot. I just, you know, the truth is I had lots of footage of Tanya Saunier. You can see her nipple for a little bit in the bathtub. And I had lots of footage of her with the worm in her mouth, and she was topless. And it just, her breasts are beautiful. There's nothing wrong with her breasts. They're fantastic. She's one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life. But it just didn't fit the scene right. It was like that thing, it was really about the thing going into her brain. And
because that's really one of the first scenes where they're really swarming and taking over the town. Right?
Yeah, and it didn't seem right to. It just seemed like an unnecessary distraction from what was occurring. So you know, that's why. That's the only reason.
No, that makes perfect sense. Annette, a regular stream viewer, wants to know what you think of this particular medium that you're on, streaming internet, TV and stuff.
I find it awful. And,
Thanks for asking that.
I find anyone involved with this medium to be fucking ridiculous. No, I think this is fun, man. This is great. I love this. This is great. You know, you guys are nice.
Cool. Thanks, Annette. Let's see. Another follow-up question is, us Jay Gassers are watching closely.
Good.
Is that a threat, or just letting us know?
Does that mean I've got my fly open?
Am I doing something wrong here? Exactly. We're like checking ourselves and everything. So,
at least I don't have my white socks on. I must give a shout out to my best friend Stevie Blackheart, who was interviewed by this show and was the one who wrote me into doing this thing. He was interviewed by this show a few weeks ago, and he was sitting there with his. Well, let's see. I can see myself. He was sitting there with his legs crossed. Yeah, just like this shot right here. And he was wearing like brown outfit, dark outfit with white tube socks. And both me and his wife Mercedes had to give him a lot of crap about wearing the white socks.
Well, I'm glad you did, Ann.
So you can actually probably go look at his. It's probably still on your site.
Yes, it's on the FilmNut archive page.
Yeah.
And a lot of what we talked about is him producing a film that you were an actor in, Lolly Love.
Yeah.
Which was, you did just such an amazing job in that movie as an actor.
Thanks.
If you watch that movie, that was the first thing I'd ever seen of you. And I'm quickly getting, you know, James Gunn film school eyes, because, you know, from that to now I've seen, you know, most to all of your work.
Great.
And I love it. And that was the very first thing, just a small independent film, which brings me to my next question. What's up with you in acting? Because I thought you were fantastic in that. I loved you in the specials, small part in SLiTHER. Is that just something you kind of do on the side? Where does acting fall in your writing, directing pursuits?
Yeah, no, I really, it's not something I pursue at all. It's only something that happens, you know. And I've been trained as an actor. I love acting. I have a lot of fun doing it. When something comes up, I'm all for it. But I've always, you know, I've had opportunities to act in things. My brother Sean and I had a deal when we first moved to town to you know, create this show starring for Fox Television that I then kind of left to go do something else. And it just seems like I've always been more attracted to the writing and directing side of things than the acting. Although I love doing it, I really do. I think I feel a certain amount of, as an actor, I don't feel in control. And that's probably has something to do with my childhood issues. But I do like to have a certain amount of control over what I'm doing. And as an actor, I see what these people go through, who most of my close friends are actors. And to see them, you know, put all their time into a movie in which they have very little say over the quality of that final film is difficult. I mean, as a screenwriter, you have very little say over the quality of the final film, and as an actor, even less. And so I think that's part of what scares me away from it. And I also think that because I love directing, you know, it was never my idea to be you know, to be like Woody Allen and direct and write and do all this. I don't know. Maybe I'm just I don't know. It just hasn't been something I've worked for.
But as far as writing and directing, do you feel your acting training and the fact that you've acted in, you know, major films helps you as a director?
Hugely. With actors, hugely. I know the language to talk to actors, and a lot of directors don't, and it's frustrating. A lot of big actors do not know how to talk to actors.
A lot of big directors, you mean, don't know how to...
Yeah, what did I say, big actors?
A lot of big actors.
No. A lot of big directors don't know how to talk to actors. They don't know the language of acting, and so they end up just being all about the shots, and actors end up feeling stranded on the day, and people, you know, people think actors are babied, and a lot of times they are babied. But the truth is, actors are putting themselves on the line emotionally. They're going out there and making themselves naked in front of a camera and taking their actual real emotions and allowing you to see them. And that's putting themselves into a tender situation. And it's different from any other art in that respect. So that needs to be respected. And some actors seem to have no problem turning it on and off. Elizabeth Banks, for instance, she's just a tough gal, and when she's being herself on set, she's goofing around. She can turn around, she can face the camera, and she's crying, and it's like this.
I saw the gag reel. She was laughing every other second.
Yeah, and that's her. But not all actors are like that, and even she. You need to, you know, I needed to talk with her about what was going on, where the character was coming from, what's the journey that this character has been on in her life that brings her to this situation, what's her through line throughout the story, and what are what's going on in every scene specifically. So I think it's helped me a great deal, my acting training.
So if there's a young aspiring director out there, would you recommend that they study acting, even if they have no intention of ever, you know, being in front of the camera, just to help them and add to their tools?
100%. I think I really think they almost need to, you know. I mean, there are certain directors that are so not, their movies are so not about, you know, if you just want to make Van Damme movies, then I don't think you really need to worry about it that much. But even, I'm sure they'd be better Van Damme movies if you studied acting. So I think it's a great thing.
Okay. Let's get to some more IMs here. Wow. Some paragraphs. Vis Viva Laura wants to know, I'm James' MySpace friend with the I won't hurt you sign. Okay. That means anything. You know who that is?
I know him, yeah.
Okay, cool.
I don't know people by their names anymore. I know people by their little pictures on MySpace.
Gotcha.
And people all the time come up to me and say, hey, I'm Brad from MySpace. I post on your site all the time. And I say, okay. Little white dog. Oh, little white dog. Yeah, okay.
All right. Yeah, MySpace, you're working. You're spreading the community. His comment or question is, thanks for being awesome, and thanks for all of the screenwriting advice. Any chance of a James Gunn screenplay competition?
I've never thought of it before. You know, does that mean I have to read screenplays? Because I hate reading screenplays.
Well, you can be the figurehead. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can show up at the awards dinner. You know.
Maybe if I can turn over the reading chores as somebody else. I get sent a lot of screenplays to look at as a director,
Right.
and it's rough, man. It's rough going. I don't like reading them. There's very few good ones that I've read.
Well, I don't know that
Even ones that people think are good. It's like that. I get bored. I don't like reading them.
Right. Well, speaking of writing advice,
Peter knows. He reads a lot of screenplays for his company. Yeah.
Peter Paul Basler.
How many good ones have you read? Out of how many? What's your percentage?
This is where they always find a way to put me on camera.
Yeah.
This makes Jeff's day right here.
That's right. It
My
does.
head always looks humongous.
That's right.
I was just noticing that.
He is
You
a
got
big-
a big old fucking
Noggin.
garbage can head.
Thank you. You don't read very many that are good. Write one. It's easier to write one than read one.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
I mean, it counts as reading it if you get through the first 15 pages, right? Like, that's all you got to say. I read it, and after you read the first 15 pages, that's the rule?
Yeah, I read the first 15 pages, and then sometimes. But I did read one good script this year, one great script, and that's it.
Now,
Crocs versus Sharks. People will know this movie, but it's this guy Josh Rubin wrote this screenplay, Crocs versus Sharks, which I won't talk about it anything other than that, but it's a great screenplay.
Awesome. Now, you were talking before about 5 pages a day on average. Do you ever get writer's block, and what do you do to overcome writer's block?
I don't believe in writer's block, and I'm always afraid to say that because I'm afraid that God will afflict me with writer's block because of saying that. But I don't. I think that there are times when I am more inspired. There are times when I am less inspired, but I don't believe in just complete writer's block. But I do go through periods of difficulty, and Joss Whedon and I were talking about it a few months ago. After I directed SLiTHER and he directed Serenity, we went on to write again, and the director and we had this conversation where we were sort of hugging each other and almost weeping because we had found each other in the same exact emotional place. The director in us almost killed the writer in us because you start to see things so big picture and you start to see things so visually and you start to think about what's the one sheet, and it's so it changes your perspective on filmmaking so much to really direct a movie and on writing so much. And it was daunting for a while after I had finished SLiTHER to start writing again and think about what I'm going to do. And it took me a while to get. I wrote a whole screenplay, which I think it's good, but I don't know if it's a thing that I really wished I was writing at the time. And I also maybe started too early. Like I probably, I was still like editing SLiTHER and I started writing again. And I kind of think that, maybe I should have taken a break or I don't know what, but it's difficult to get back into the writing space. And even to this day, I mean, I love directing. I love directing more than anything else. It's more fun for me to be on set and actually, and it's fun as a director. I love being a writer because I love, taking the words that I've written to that next level. But man, directing really changes your perspective a bit.
That's another great nugget of information. So just like the director should act, the writer should also maybe direct a short or direct some acting classes or whatever just to get that experience to help your writing.
Maybe, but it really screws you up. It's like I'm not sure it's a good. I mean, I'm honest. I'm not sure that's a good thing. That may not be a. I mean, it's like I think maybe that's good in a way because you need to learn how to write practically.
Right.
And
exactly.
That's something that I've kind of loved to do from the beginning. A lot of people bitch about when they write a screenplay and then they come back and they're like, I want you to, shave this much money off this screenplay. And the ways you can do that are A, B, C, and D. You don't have to do all of them, but you have to do a certain amount of them. And to me, that was always a challenge. That was fun. Being brought up with Troma, I was always trying to think of the cheapest way I could do something. I went to the Masters of Horror dinner last week, and Robert Rodriguez and I started talking about the ways to save money. And one of those ways is preparation, by being completely planned out ahead of time. And he was talking about how, production designers always want to build, 4 walls and these big things. But man, if you only need 2 walls in the scene, build 2 walls, And it's great to have endless amounts of cash and do whatever you need. But it's really good if you can just use exactly what's there and know ahead of time what you need.
Yeah, no, and you make great points. And probably a newer writer should just worry about the creative thing first. And once they're good enough to where they could separate that, then maybe learn the practical.
Yeah. Although, I mean, I think as a new writer, to learn how to write something that can be done for a budget, obviously it has a greater chance of getting made in some ways.
Right. Brian, there was a really cool IM that I was about to get to, but I see it's gone. Any chance of bringing it back? It was...
No, we deleted it for time for the other ones.
Gotcha. There you go. Sorry. Well, let's get to this one then. Quantum wants to know, when is James...
Totally... Now, what was it? I'm totally curious.
It was something about some steel cage match
I'll
with
get
someone.
it back for you.
You know what I'm talking about?
That's right. Go ahead.
Yeah. Quantum Test wants to know, when James is filming, where does he keep his kids? Oh, you have kids?
I don't have children.
There you go.
I think I keep them in my penis and scrotum.
There you go. His DNA stays right where it belongs. Beelzebub wants to know, let me read the question now before I ask it. Will you take the J-Gassers on a field trip to the Demolition Derby?
Yeah, I will. That's actually, I will. We're trying so I've become a big Demolition Derby fan. After seeing one Demolition Derby. I'm suddenly the Demolition Derby guy, and I'm actually going to go to I'm bringing my whole crew, my friends, to Demolition Derby tomorrow night.
Oh, cool.
And I think next month there's October 15th there is a Demolition Derby, and I think J-Gas is going to sponsor a car.
Right on.
And so we're going to have our own Demolition Derby car to root on, and then everybody will be invited to come on down.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we got that IM back. It's a real good film. No, it's not. But it's a funny question. Iggy Pop Culture wants to know, any chance of a cage match with Perry King for charity?
No, the truth is, I almost got into a fist fight with Perry King outside of a Troma party, and the biggest drawback to the possible fist fight was that I was pretty certain I was going to get my ass kicked. He's got a little bit of he's bigger than me,
right?
But I'm not totally certain of that. There's a chance that I could have taken Perry King. There's a chance.
There's a chance.
But he also had crazy eyes.
Right. Okay.
Perry King's an idiot. Right. He butted in line in front of me at a party, and so I got into a little fight with him. It almost became a fist fight, and luckily my girlfriend at the time was sort of like, chill out, and his sort of slutty looking ugly bimbo was like also doing the same thing. So
this is like on the air, right?
I talk about Perry King all the time.
Okay,
yeah.
Well,
it's become a joke. I feel a little bad at this point. I've talked about it so much that I'm sure it's gotten back to him. I used to talk about Lemmy all the time and put him down, and then all of a sudden one day I was like, you know what? I've reached my limit. I've been way meaner to Lemmy than he ever was to me. Right. So I'm going to quit talking about Lemmy. And he did a couple nice things on down the road, and so now I'm done. I've reached my vengeance has been fulfilled with Lemmy.
Right.
Perry King, it's funny, and he's a bigger jerk than Lemmy, so I'm going to keep.
It's kind of like an honor. He's got to wait for someone to take over too, to earn the wrath more.
Yeah.
He's in that position until someone else comes along.
Yeah. Another D movie star comes along and messes with me. Yeah, because if it was the sad truth of no, that's not true. If it was a big star, I would be doing the same thing. So.
Well, I'm going to get ready to let you out of here with a couple more quick ones. Do you have a favorite set term speak?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Because I don't always say action, and I learned this from Ken Quapis, and so it's and a couple of other people. Action can sometimes startle people, so I say action when we're doing action sequences, but when it's an acting sequence in which we're dealing with actors, I go ahead.
Now, does an AD have to tell the actors you're not going to hear action?
They know ahead of time. I talk to the actors.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah.
I actually talk to the actors myself. It's it's pretty,
Because otherwise...
I like the idea of being the director that will refuse to talk to the actors and has to tells the AD what to go tell the actors, but I'm not that guy right now.
Great, I love it. So you mentioned the jgas.org website, right? Do you have another website in addition to that where people can kind of keep tabs on you and so forth?
I've got jamesgunn.com, but I also have myspace.com/SLiTHERmovie, which is the easiest way to get a hold of me or see my stuff. And I got some great Evil Baby pictures up there right now.
Right.
And some Demolition Derby pics from the last Demolition Derby. So yeah, that's probably the best place.
Okay, well, good. Well, we are done. The time flew by.
Awesome.
Thank you so
What a
much
good
again for
time.
coming in. It was a lot of fun talking.
I thought
to
we
you.
have sex at the end of it.
Yeah, Lloyd told me about
Go ahead.
that. Well,
Action.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, again, that's going to do it. Thank you so much for everyone for tuning in. Peter Paul Basler, thanks for making it happen. Stephen Blackheart, hello to you. Check out Stevie Blackheart's episode of Lolly Love. It's on the archive page. Brian Grimeau, as always, a pleasure working with you. Great show. I'm Jeff Schubert. We're going to see you next week with Mark Bell. He's the editor-in-chief for FilmThreat.com. They review movies. They write stories about filmmaking. Great website. Mark Bell. We're excited to have him coming in. So we will see you next week. Same Platypus channel, same Platypus time. See you then. I'm Jeff Schubert.
Thank you. That's fun.
Huh?